All right. So before I do the share of screen, I just want to say thank you so much for coming to learn about applying improv outside the theater. And this is very important to me because I do think the skills that we learn in improv are critical for the success of our planet and the human species. Not to get all serious, but that's to set the stage. Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Awesome. So improv your way to success. I just want to say right up front, am I a success? I don't know. Who knows what that even means? And I think redefining success is also important and just deciding what you want that to be. But I thought it was a catchy title and it's clickbaity for Matthew to get some more people to come out tonight. Okay, so tonight I'm going to cover an executive summary so that if you just don't have time to watch this whole thing or be part of the whole thing, you can just watch the first 5 minutes and get it. And then I'm going to go through my background and how improv has helped me outside the stage. And then I'm going to dive into what is improv and get really nerdy about it, and then talk about the benefits. And finally, we're going to get serious about what the world needs. So I'm really excited to discuss these questions at the end. So I want to bring in the audience and share our own wisdom that we all have. So this is a lot of text. I'm sorry about that, but this is if you really just want to know what's my point, this is it. So improv teaches us skills that are critical in our modern world, and I believe are going to become more critical as the world continues to become more complex. We need creative leaders. And I really want to dive into that word leader because I think it has a lot of baggage, but I believe everybody can lead in their own area. And we need leaders in every part of our world very, very much right now. So I know this is really intuitive, but I do have some proof of this in the form of some conversations with extremely smart people. So Nora Bateson is one of them, and Daniel Schuppenmachenberg is another one. So I have these two video links, and I will paste these into the chat, and you can watch them at your leisure. But they go into this complex world, and something Nora mentioned, excuse me, Nora mentioned in one of her talks is that we really need to become comfortable with uncertainty. We have to be calm with an uncertain future. And I think that is exactly what we learn while we're standing on stage with no clue whatsoever what's going to happen next. And there's a whole audience just staring at us. That is the most terrifying feeling in the world. And that's what improv gets us used to. All right. I just recently found these quotes from John Cleese on play and how play creates creativity. So when we come to improv, we have to learn this. And I think the teacher is going to be critical in creating this beautiful way of getting relaxed, right? Getting a sense of relaxation on stage, getting rid of the hurry, right? We don't want to jump quickly. We want to take a breath and feel comfortable. And it's a little bit like meditation. So John Cleese has this whole 37-minute speech, which I will also paste in. I don't have it on here, on how you can become more creative. And it's really about these things, about being relaxed, giving yourself time. And I think that improv is that play area that really lets us unleash our creativity. So let me talk about my history. Oh my goodness. I had to ping some of my colleagues from my first improv team to try to figure out when we started. So we started in we started in 2010. So I'm just looking back and it's like, this is 2022, almost the end of it. So it's really, really a long time of doing improv. So we were in a lot of festivals. We were together for a long time. And we immediately started going to festivals. Like we really didn't get good at improv or whatever people say. We were all new to improv, all this group, and we had a lot of different members rotating in and out. core was Patrick McGinnis, Billy Milik, and I. We were the core members for the whole time. And so we went to Del Close Marathon, which is a long form marathon. I don't, it's 3 days of nonstop improv, 24 hours a day. I think they take a few breaks to clean the theater, which thankfully they do because it gets so gross in there. So we did that for a few years, and it was such a great time. All right. Then we go to Razing Awareness, which was a group that I personally founded. And Raising Awareness was a musical improv troupe. And I'm gonna just stop sharing for a second. So, do you guys know about musical improv? Do you know much about it? Have you seen it a little bit? Musical improv, I think, is like the height, other than maybe Shakespearean improv, which is unbelievable, incredible. But with musical improv, the form that we had is so our name is Raising Awareness with a Z, right? So what we did was we took a suggestion from the audience for a minor inconvenience, like something very small, like a hangnail, okay? And then we would each sing a verse about, some tragedy that happened from a hangnail. And then we would build scenes based on those first verses. And each scene may or may not turn into its own song. It was just I recruited the best singers in Tampa. Just incredible. Michelle. Oh my gosh, I'm not gonna be able to remember everyone's name. Bill. This is my current husband. He was my musical director, and he would play the songs on his various different musical instruments. You can see there's a guitar back here. So we just had such a great time, and I'm feeling terrible. I can't remember his name. I think it was Jim. Anyways, so good times and musical improv, very, very challenging. Next level of uncomfort of singing a song that you don't know on stage. Okay, so when I moved out here in 2015, I think there was a few months where I didn't have any improv group, and then I found this group, and we were kind of like an informal group, and we named ourselves the Cult of Kasai, and I think we only did 2 shows, and this is the worst picture ever. Our leader had a baby, and unfortunately, we didn't get to meet anymore after that. So I don't know what the moral of the story of that is. And I just have not prioritized getting back into another troupe, but I definitely miss improv. And when I met Matt, a few weeks ago now, I really got excited to think about improv more. So it's been really fun. All right. So how have I applied? Toastmasters. So someone mentioned Toastmasters. It was Trisha. I am a Toastmasters Toastmaster. I actually started in Toastmasters. They have something called a table topic, which is a 1 to 2 minute impromptu speech. Not long enough, just not long enough. We need like a lot more time for improv. But I've gone all the way up to the top of not all the way, but very close to the top of the Toastmasters hierarchy with the district director. So this is a picture of me either as district director or somewhere in there. And just go over my career highlight. I'm not trying to boast, okay? This is just to give you a flavor. By the way, I'm 43, so I've still another 35, 40 years left, 50 years, who knows? I eat well. So currently I'm a writer, speaker. I have a little startup that I'm working on, and I'm a yoga teacher. And my last job, I worked at Meta and Instagram. I've had a very strange career in my life. So, as a technical program manager, I was the district director for Toastmasters District 57, which is East Bay area Toastmasters. I was the CTO for an AI startup. And before that, the job that brought me out to California was the GE digital job. And I had a lot of different jobs there, but my last job was principal digital product manager, costing and pricing. Anyways, it's a very long title, but my job was very complicated and very fun. Okay, so just some pictures of me. My one of my employees once gave me that, and that's like my favorite thing ever. So other things, I am a musician too, and I have learned since doing my musical improv to play the cello. So my husband and I have played a few times in front of very large audiences, unfortunately, very terrifying. But having the comfort on stage, that's like half the battle. Because by the way, when you're playing a cello or even a violin, like you're dragging the string, and if your hand is shaking, even if you know the song perfectly, if your hand is shaking, you can't do it. It's a mechanical endeavor, and that nervousness is really, really detrimental to the sound quality. All right. So I had a lot of fun with drawing when I was building this presentation. So I'm going to talk about what is improv. All right. So this is my mind map. This is how my brain works. So I'm just going to start right here. Vulnerability. Okay, I want to see everyone's faces so I can see everyone if people are like on the same page with me. Yeah, vulnerability, right? Oh, listening. It's about listening. It's about presence, curiosity. What if, asking the what if questions, and observation. It's thrilling. There's a world of possibility. If this is true, what else is true? Is a really important question when you're on stage in a scene. What else is going on? If somebody is like constantly juggling, like what else is true? Or did they grow up in a circus? Right? What is it? So there's so many little things that come up when you ask those questions. Vitality, present. I think it's about love. I might be going out on a limb here, but I think improv is about love. It's the blank page. It's subtle communication, extremely subtle communication, right? A team builds a set of cues and they're constantly aware and looking for those little things. Are you doing a swipe? Are you doing a tap out? All these little communication cool cues that the team builds is it's really an extraordinary way to communicate quickly without being like, all right, Bob, you're gonna go over there now, and I'm gonna come on stage, and then I'm gonna be your mom. Right? It's like you can just very quickly get things done without a lot of like overhead. It's teamwork. It's teamwork. It's memory. Oh my gosh. How many times have you been on stage where you forgot the name of the person that someone else was? Oh my gosh. This is like the word. Working on your memory. It's so important. You're being supportive. You're making these connections. You're giving gifts. The giving of a gift is so valuable. So I see everyone nodding and smiling. So let me just stop and see if you do you have anything else that you would add that I forgot? Any other? I know there
I
was
was
a lot.
gonna say, I was gonna say yes, and
Yes, and that's like the obvious one. I don't even know why I didn't put that one. Very good. Thank you, Frankie. That was a test. I was te Matt was having me test you. Yes, and thank you. Any other thoughts? It's okay. You can come up with it as we go. I wasn't trying to put you in the spot. Just wanted to see if I missed anything else.
I was
Yes.
curious what your because the things that you did for work career wise, they're very, I mean, when it's like CTO is like very technical, right? And then CEO is very high level and your startup. So what is your, I mean, when it comes to like work outside of improv?
Explain yourself, Bet. I'm a very strange person, and Frankie's gotten to know me a little bit here.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm very bizarre. And the thing is, I'm building software for managing volunteers. So
Oh,
I'm the subject matter expert on this because of Toastmasters, and I have a whole nother slide on all my volunteer leadership that I've done since I was a kid, as the oldest of 9 kids.
oh wow.
So I'm building a software that I'm the expert on. And I've done product management, so it's all about strategy and market fit. And I actually have some stories where I'm going to talk about a little bit how I use improv for product management. But so I'm very technical because I'm extraordinarily curious, which is another improv skill, right? The curiosity makes me dig and dig and dig until I understand the answers to the questions that I have. So, like just the other day, I watched a 3 hour Tesla AI day from Elon that dug like 3 hours of detailed slides on how their AI system works for their self-driving car. And I digested it all into 2 slides because I had to give a presentation on AI like in a few days from then. this is all recorded. I think Frankie maybe. I don't know if she's watched it, but I definitely sent it to her. So anyways, like I just am very curious, and so I just keep digging until I get the answers. And that's also how I approach yoga. It's like yoga is the study of this incredible system that's way more crazy than software. So I don't know, does that answer your question of like
Yes,
how
no, it does.
how
It
would I go
absolutely does.
from
Yes.
being CTO to CEO? It's a subject matter expert. I'm an expert on this subject, so cool.
AI or
Thanks
just expert on the vol,
on volunteer software, volunteer
okay.
leadership.
Is that
Yeah.
new? Like, is that,
It is.
because I've never heard, I mean, I've never heard of, right?
We
Volunteers.
have only launched to one customer, my own district, and once we get things really ironed out, then we'll go to other districts. So it is new, and I'm very much thinking about other kind of volunteer organizations that need help. So,
So is it a SaaS?
yep,
Okay.
yep. I have an AWS certification also.
The Amazon.
I know. It's the best one, but we won't get into the fight about that one. Okay. So that's what improv is, at least how I'm seeing it. And then let's talk about the benefits. All right. So what are the benefits that we're getting from doing improv over the years? I think the first few classes, you're just scratching the surface, but as you practice, you get more and more depth. So I think the power of observation, like being able to see when someone's juggling, like you see them over there, but you notice maybe one of the things is heavier and they don't even notice. And it's like, why are you juggling this and this other thing? Like you name them, right? So you notice these little things. And I think that's something Groundlings is really into, like the detail, like digging in. So I think the power of observation, and even if the person who's doing the thing doesn't even notice, building creativity, building a sense of humor. I would say the number one thing I've gotten out of improv is learning what is funny. And my teacher I would ask him, like, how do you know what something is funny? He's like, you have to build your own sense of humor, and it's going to take time. And so I think that's something we get as we do more and more improv. Stage presence, it's just practice, right? It's just continual over and over. Public speaking is something we've mentioned a few times tonight. It like if you can get on stage and just do something silly when you don't know what's happening, it's much easier when you have your speech and you've prepared and you practiced it and you looked up the quotes, and like it's just so much easier. I think emotional intelligence is something huge, like reading the face, seeing the body language, right? Understanding what is going on with this person, this character on stage, and how do I react to that? I have power of observation twice just because it's that important. I was evidently having a lot of fun when I was drawing this. Team leadership without authority. This is the thing. Like any character on stage can tap someone else out or do a swipe, right? We're all level and we can all lead. We can all give a gift to the other person. Like, here's your birthday present, which is a kitten, right? You can give gifts and that's going to change the whole scene when you lead, and no one has any authority and we're all the same. So that kind of comfort of leading without authority, I think is critical in all parts of our life outside of the theater. Building confidence, these are things that happen the more we do it. Comfort and uncertainty has been mentioned. Listening skills. Did I have building curiosity twice? No, I think this one is different. Okay. So those are the things that I really see as the benefits, and I would love to just stop and see if did I miss anything? There are some other benefits. Christine?
Yeah, I know that for me, improv generates a tremendous amount of energy and a great creative energy that I bring into the rest of my life. So I think that's one. I think the other thing and this taps into the EQ, that it also, in addition to the curiosity, it's that sense of discovery, like, oh my gosh, I didn't know this was here. And being able to dig deeper and find those treasures. So it's that increasing self-awareness, I think, that is a gift of it as well.
Mm-hmm. I totally agree with you. And you're reminding me of so many instances when we discovered something like halfway through a scene or almost at the end of a scene that was like, whoa, that is amazing. And totally the energy, because you do bring the energy up, right? And so when you leave, you just have that. It's very activating and exciting and fun.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Christine. Anyone else have any other things that I left off? Trisha, you're on mute if you want to add anything.
My dog's barking periodically. The thing that I really learned, and Matt brought it up very early on, like in the classes, was getting rid of that inner critic. And that to me is just huge, because I used to say I was afraid to go into a store if there was like no other customers, because I didn't want, I would buy something just because I felt obligated. And so now it's like not being as self-conscious.
Mm-hmm. That's amazing. That's amazing. Yeah, I think there's just so many little aspects of that. That inner critic, I don't know if we can totally get rid of it because I've been working on that for a long time, but at least it doesn't sound like such an like incessant someone that we need to listen to, kind of. It's like, okay, just stay over there. So yeah, I'm really glad you brought that up. I'm
And
really glad.
the other thing is becoming more aware of how you impact people, or, like if you hurt someone, being able to just say, look, I'm really sorry, versus like going, oh, I hope they forget about it.
That's true. Just being more direct. It's really great just to hear you're sorry when it's the other way around, right? All right. Thank you so much for sharing. Oh, Frankie, I see your hand.
I was gonna say, authenticity, like being able to drop the masks. Like a lot of people have a lot of affectations. They're sort of playing other personalities in their life. Be real, be yourself. So dropping into that authentic space. And the other thing I was going to say is, it's really cool when you do something and everyone laughs. Like for me, that was really like, ooh, I can be funny. It's kind of like I can bring levity to a situation. Is a really powerful like discovery. So you don't take yourself so seriously.
I think that's really valuable. The audience feedback is something we haven't talked about, but playing to a non-audience or an audience, like when you do improv, just like because you're in a group and you're just doing it with each other, although still someone's gonna laugh and you're like, oh, that was funny. But having the audience reaction is so informative to understand, oh, that is a funny thing. Like sometimes you don't see it in yourself, and then getting on stage and having those moments of like feedback from the audience is also a really important thing. I don't know how much of that's working on Zoom, but anyways, thank you so much, Frankie. I'm going to go back to the slide and continue. All right. So how do we apply this to the world? I love these word clouds. We need leaders without authority. Like, please, everyone can lead. Listening, bravery. We didn't even talk about bravery, empathy, leaders who are comfortable with uncertainty. Oh my goodness. Are you guys just tired of leaders always pretending like they know everything that's going on? Like, just stop. Like, everything's unknown. We just need to make it up. Okay? Leaders who listen. We need that. I'm just like thinking about leaders and like what I want them to be like. I want them to be observant. Teams that work, people who ask hard questions. I love that in everything in my yoga classes and with my customers. Creative solutions, a sense of humor. Oh, if we all could just have a sense of humor in our life, and collaboration. So I'm going to tell 3 quick stories here. So the first one is about being a product manager. I'm going to stop sharing. So as a product manager, it is all of those skills is everything comes in because I sit with my customer and I'm just looking for clues. It's just like improv. I don't know what they're thinking. I don't know what their problems are. I was building this thing for a manufacturing space, which I didn't know anything about. I worked at GE, and my job was to build something that brings the data from the factory to the cloud. And so I just started asking questions like, what are your issues? What it keeps you up at night? What do you wish you knew? And I slowly discovered they wanted to compare factories from around the globe, but mostly the US. And they couldn't get it from the data center in their factory up to the cloud fast enough. And the technology didn't exist before the AWS. This is sponsored by AWS. Just kidding. So I just by listening and asking, and the question, yes, and Frankie, but also if this is true, what else is true, right? If this manager of the factory can't even figure out this kind of stuff, what about headquarters, right? What about the people who work the lines who need to know data on how things are running? So there is just so much discovery and curiosity and just being observant and listening to body language and like the pauses and like digging into areas that are, political and going, oh, okay, I see. So you can't get the budget unless this person approves it. Okay. They go talk to that person. Right. So just all of those little things helped me so much, just being humble, listening, empathizing. So that's how it helped me with manufacturing Data Cloud, which by the way, I feel like I'm boasting so much, but it won some Gartner most innovative manufacturing product, whatever. This was like 2017, 2018. So, whatever. Gartner, top level. Okay, I'm very proud of it. It was really fascinating project. Okay, the next one is from being a CTO. So I had 5 engineers. 3 of them were data scientists who had never worked on anything outside of like experiments. They'd never done anything that's for an enterprise level software. And I had to sit with them with a blank page, and they had some very good technical ideas. And I basically had to collaborate with them to pull together a plan on a blank page, which I swear feels just like improv because they had pieces of the puzzle and I had pieces of the puzzle, and they were all young. They were all very young. And I'm this more senior, although I look very young person. And so I don't want to intimidate them. So I have to be very gentle and work together to build this plan of how each of their modules was going to work. And it really was using, again, humility, just asking questions like, oh, well, why does it need to be like that? Oh, what's the underlying data structures for that? And a lot of times you're like, oh, I don't even know like how that's going to work. And I'm like, that's okay. We will figure that out. Let's put a question mark. Right. So just being humble, open, listening, observing that they're worried about this or that, and finding out where they're stuck. So that's how I use it with my team. Just again, it's such a great joy of my life. Okay, the last one. Do you guys see Squid Game? Anybody? Yes? You guys are all laughing. All right, Marlisa didn't. And this one over here, do you guys ever heard of the floor is lava? Has anyone ever heard of that? No? Okay. So the third story is just very recent from teaching yoga to kids. Yoga is improv, okay? It doesn't matter how much of a great lesson plan I put together. I walk into the room and I find out this lady's shoulder hurts, this person's elbow hurts, that person's knee is injured, that one's toe. And I have to weave all these suggestions together and fit them into my class. And I've had to throw away my entire class plan before, which is, terrible, but whatever. It's so much fun. But recently I taught a class to kids, and I had all these things that were going to make animal sounds. But that does not last for more than like 7 minutes, okay? And then they're like, "We need to have fun." So we did the floor is lava. So I had them balance on a block and with one foot, and then they had to set the other block down and then move to the other with balance. So then they would move from block to block and they couldn't touch the floor. They loved this game. They literally loved it. And then the next week we did other games too. But then this last week we did red light, green light. Do you guys know this game from when you're a kid, right? But they had to do yoga poses across the room. And I had them be the moderator, red light, green light person. I was the one who was participating with the other kids. It was so much fun. And tree pose was great. Lunge was harder, but plank nearly killed me. Yeah. I'm like, this is the hardest class. Anyways, this is just a recap. We need to practice these skills. Improv is a great place. Empathy, vulnerability, building trust. I'm not going to read them all again. All right. So we've kind of been doing this so far, but I would love to just hear any final thoughts. Like, how have you applied this out and what would you want to do more of? Like, what are you not doing enough of that you want to get more? Who wants to share?
Well, I'll start with just another idea for the mind map, which is
Yeah.
the negotiation, and that ties into kind of the patience and the waiting game. So when we first start out at improv, we're fairly impetuous. So we're like, we want to get something out. We don't have the patience because we're nervous and there's that pressure. So when we're negotiating in real life, it's really the first one who speaks first. Like I've always been in real life situations, always just giving everything up, right at the outset. Like I had zero poker face. And, it's interesting as the more and more improvisation I do, the more patience and silence and less is more. I always tell my students, if you do improv long enough, you'll always win a stare down because you can look at someone's face and most people that don't do improv will crack. They'll be like, So I just thought it was interesting to think about the art of negotiation as it relates to poker face, patience, and I don't have to do anything right now. I'm going to be, and let's see if that guy cracks, which is, I don't have that mastered yet. The idea of like the patience, because I don't like to see other people sweat. So I'm like my own worst enemy on that idea of negotiation.
Mm.
The other thing that on negotiation, and this was a few years back, but it was that, Gilroy, come here. And it was sort of that women enter a negotiation like fairness, where men, I'm going to win. And so that mindset actually favored men in negotiations just because they're like, I'm going to win, where women were trying to be fair or equitable.
That's interesting.
That could be its own talk.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, it's very good. Thank you both for bringing up the negotiation piece. I am also not a great negotiator, so I didn't even think about it, but that's why I like this collaborative session.
Yeah.
What else?
Well, it's kind of building not on negotiation itself, but just the idea of the interaction, that if we do what we are doing with improv and we are just completely comfortable in the present moment, we give the space to the other person for us to figure out what's going on with them. We also allow them to be who they are, and we have no idea what they're going to bring to it. But if we can be present and not have all of these thoughts running around in our head, we can actually see what is. I'm rambling on that, but just the power of reality is extraordinary.
Slowing down, just slowing down and having some space and some breath.
Yeah.
The other thing Matt talks about that I've always appreciated, and it's so true, is that how you learn, like at first you don't even know what you don't know, and then you sort of become aware of what you don't know. So it's, it's interesting to look at that like through the improv journey, because I just love improv, like the actual rehearsing or, getting better, or just, performing and things like that.
Totally.
One thing that, like, this all kind of ties in together, but like we mentioned earlier about trying to be funny. So oftentimes when we start out in improv, it's how can I be funny? How can I be witty? And what I end up trying to get to myself as like the improviser and also students is let's just try to be ourselves. Let's not try to be funny or witty. And, Bett, you brought up that idea of, reading, the other participant, which, Frankie can relate to when in the Meisner acting training. It's all about what's the other person putting off? How do you feel about it? So then, the idea of in being improv, trying to perform and do something entertaining for the audience can be as simple as patience, authenticity, reading the other person, and really not trying to force something out and not caving to that silence in the theater. And that goes back to the negotiation. Okay, there's silence, it's an awkward moment, and learning to be comfortable in that awkward moment. And that's something I have really, particularly on the stage, have really started to embrace. I mean, it's kind of weird because I'll be like, ooh, this is going nowhere. This is great. Like, this is not, the audience isn't laughing. This feels super awkward. I know it's awkward. We don't know what we're doing yet. And that has turned into a nightmare into something that I really quite enjoy. Although I would say I don't really have the real life, experience. So maybe that will bubble into my real life and I'll have a story at some point.
Cool. I'm excited, Matt.
I was going to say one thing, Bett.
Yeah.
Just something simple. I don't know if anyone else has had this experience, but just I'm one of these people that will avoid the phone when it rings. Like, I just won't want to pick up the phone because I don't want to, I don't want to be caught off guard and have to have some long conversation. So I'm one of these people, like, just text me, don't leave a message, don't expect me to pick up my phone, like, give me plenty of notice that we're going to have a conversation. And I think, I don't know, because I haven't done enough improv, but I would love to explore this idea of, like, just for a week, every time the phone answers, just pick it up. Now, some people would say, well, that's horrible because, you need to focus on your life and you can't just be picking up the phone every time it rings. But just as an exercise and being spontaneous and knowing, yeah, I've got this. Like, if I've only got 3 minutes, I think for me, part of not wanting to pick up the phone is I will endure someone for hours if they want, you know what I mean? Like, I have a hard time saying, listen, I've only got 5 minutes for you. Can we cut to the chase? But I think with more improv training, why can't I pick up the phone and go, hey, it's great to talk to you. What do you need? I've got 5 seconds for you. It's okay. So anyway, I just thought that's a silly day-to-day thing, but these are the kind of things we could think about employing to strengthen the particular muscles you have that you think might be something that would benefit your life. And the other thing I was going to say is 3 things I said. Just being in my body more. I think improv, you really got to drop into your body. So for someone like me, and I think there's some modern day malaise is being stuck in your head and being really cerebral about things, like just thinking. We've got to think everything through. So, I think improv can really help you to drop out of that overthinking thing. And of course, you've mentioned it already, but that hypercritical, like I grew up as a child with hypercritical, sort of surrogate parenting, and you don't have time to be, do any sort of self-criticism if you're going to be a good improviser, right? You got to drop all that. So I think everyone has their own stuff they're dealing with as an adult from childhood. And I think I found acting training, was like therapy for me, dealing with a lot of that stuff. I think improv is just another, it's like a sandbox you get to go into and just brings up all that stuff that you're dealing with, programming, conditioning and stuff, and helps you just like get all that, fluff it off. whatever, practice, right? Just practice what it's like to not have those things in a safe environment, a safe container. And also just being in an environment where there's no judgment. I mean, I've yet, in Matt's class, it's awesome. Like everyone's so different, and the most unusual characters he manages to accumulate in one room. And there's no space for judgment, not even for a second, whereas in life, I think people can be quite judgmental, but not.
Yeah, I totally agree. And like for me as a yoga teacher, I feel like getting into my emotions, right? Like getting into my emotions, seeing the person juggling over there. I don't know why I keep bringing that example. And I just really get into emotion, like what's my emotional reaction to this without any judgment, with just my authentic, am I his mom? Am I his sister? Am I going to be catching the ball in a second, right? Like what's going on? And yeah, just turn off that negative voice and just get in there with curiosity. Something about the phone is I love when people call me, and it could be a telemarketer. I will just mess with them. I have so much fun. And nowadays there's all these texting spammers. I don't know if everyone else gets this. Oh, I mess with them so much. I'm like, they're like, oh, I bought this dress from you. I'm like, you need to pay me $1,000 to my account right now. Anyways, I like have fun as much as possible because, obviously I'm not having enough fun. All right, so I think we're almost out of time, right, Matt? But I would love to see if there's any other final comments or just thoughts on how to apply this beautiful skill that we love outside the theater.
I was, when you brought this up, that it was interesting because I've always, I've been doing the improv for personal development and had my own experience. But I really did think about it on a whole new level. And I went, wow, there's actually miles to go in terms of like taking big risks and being really bold. So like I've gotten very comfortable in the room and I can public speak. I can ask the dumb question. Tremendous ground I've made because I used to be the guy hiding. So now I can be, fairly outspoken, and there's, a lot of development and stuff. But when I think about, let's say boldness in business or risk taking in business, those are areas I'm like, wow, I could cover a lot of ground, like, taking that out of the theater. And so when you brought this topic up, I thought, oh, well, yeah, this is right down my alley. And then it just made me think about how much more where I'm not applying like really good improv technique to my life.
I still remember the moment we met at in Sedona, and you were like, I'm an improv actor. I'm like, oh man, improv is how I live my life. And now I think about it, I quit my tech job without any safety net, huge paying meta job. And I just decided to become a yoga teacher. And then I
Wow.
slowly realized I want to build this software for volunteers, and my engineer friend and I are partnering on it. So it's all emerging, I think when you feel brave, and you're right, it's like, how can you use these things? I think it's just becomes, you just can build is it like it's like a habit of jumping out and without a parachute and just be like, I don't know, I'll just figure it out somewhere before I fall down. Or I'll just go to the doctor and get my leg fixed.
You have the 2 YouTube videos, but Matt, can you email them?
Oh,
'Cause-
thank you for reminding me. Let me paste those in.
'cause in the
Yes,
chat,
in fact, I would love to
somebody-
share these whole slides with you all.
Because I don't know how you take it out of the chat, and technology is not my strength.
Well,
Yeah,
I
good though.
think the first thing is, I think
send them
Matt
to
can
you,
probably
Tricia.
send you the link. So I've
Yeah.
just made it available for anybody on the internet who can come and look at it. And I will also paste these. Yeah, Nora Bateson is extremely brilliant, smart people. And again, we have big problems in the world, right? So we need to have fun. We can't just like be all in the dirt of like, oh, It's terrible. Like we have to have fun and bring joy to it also and play. I'm also gonna find this John Cleese
Oh,
37.
And just to another thinker, Sigmund Freud is often quoted as saying that the main goal of life is work and love, but they often neglect the fact that at the end of that sentence is play,
Hmm.
because it's so life-giving.
Mhm. I
Who was
really
that again? I'm sorry.
Freud thing.
Sigmund Freud, he
Freud,
actually
okay,
said
cool.
the goal of life is to work, love, and play, but oftentimes people just focus on the work and the love.
Mhm.
Yeah, we need to play. We need to, and I've noticed that I have not had enough play in my life.
Mhm.
So I'm working on that, adding a little more play.
Sounds like you've had a lot of play.
The thing is, when you're teaching yoga, it's play, but it's not just like pure fun improv play. You know, it's a different thing. You're facilitating. You have to, make sure people are not falling over or hurting themselves. There's a lot of oversight. Anyways, you guys all know what I'm talking about. All right, well, I think we should just go ahead and end and thank you all for listening to this talk and click the show notes to watch the video or get the slides, and thank you. I'll put comments on ideas that you had that we forgot. But thank you all for being here. It was really a pleasure. Thank you, Matt, for co-creating this experience. Like we just kind of came up with it. Boom, 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 just like
Boom,
that.
boom.
Great.
Yes. Yeah. It was so lovely. Marlise and Chris, I haven't seen you in a while. So really happy to see your shining faces, and Trisha and Frankie. Wonderful, wonderful. And Bett, thank you. Really nice Toastmasters, all your presentation skills paying off nice with your delivery. So really well done.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
Bye,
Thank
everyone.
you.
See you
so
some of you
much.
next week. And Marlise, hope to catch you and Chris
Soon.
maybe at the Improv Open on Saturday next in January. So look out for that.
Okay. Thank you.
And Bett, you'll have to come down for it.
I doubt it. I'm working around the clock. Everyone's on holiday leave, and I'm like the yoga teacher, substitute for everybody.
24/7 yoga. Hey, that's a good name.
24/7.
24/7 yoga.
Yeah, I love it. All right. Looks like a good idea.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.